There is a stake in the yard. Why is it there? Maybe it will mark the spot where a new tree will be planted or where new flowers might grow. It could be for future plans, something that will help the mind not forget that this is an important location. In fact, it is an important location, and this stake has not been placed here by whim or by chance. Unfortunately, there are no flowers or trees intended to start life here. Rather, instead, this stake represents the day when domestic harmony with nature will be diminished. Quick and creative road planning considers the bottom line monetary cost to themselves over the integrity of the classic American family tradition and historical appreciation. There is a flag connected to the house. Why is it there? Maybe it is a place where freedom and liberty hold value, where the love of country and family runs deep, where the love of family, past, present, and future, is most dear and unchanging. In fact, it does mark a place where freedom and liberty have value, where the past, present, and future is most dear and unchanging to the family that lives there.
Well, if the sun's shining and I don't get around that well, I like to sit out there and enjoy the weather and the scenery and read my paper. It's just good to know what's going on in the world. And I read some of the world news and the local news and just all kinds of things. Well, on my iPad, I can get email, and I also read Facebook, see what it has to say. Oh, I like to sit out there and look at the scenery and have my little dog out there with me. If the cars didn't go by and make so much noise, well, it would be nice. I don't like the noise from the cars. And I'm really going to be unhappy when it gets to the place that the cars are a lot closer than they are now. It's too noisy now, and can you imagine how noisy it's going to be when they get in that much closer? I just feel real bad about it. I just don't like that idea at all.
The house and property that stands at 1276 West Fries Road near Potlatch, Idaho, was built for the most part by one man. Adrian Uncle A. McCowan started on it in 1899. By 1914, he had managed several buildings, including a fence. Uncle A. was the brother of Phyllis's grandfather on her mother's side of the family. By any measure, Uncle A. did a lot of measuring. He was highly skilled in the craft of design, architecture, and carpentry. Many tools that he marked with his initials have survived. He did all of the planning and labor himself, only requiring help when the task of heavy labor took more than one man. The house itself isn't the only building that stands on the property as a credit to his workmanship. The beautiful red barn not far from the house stands strong as well, a beacon that represents everything good from America's farming history. Some of the smaller structures he created, such as a granary, pump house, water trough, and another smaller barn also remain intact. To add his signature to the house and the other structures, Uncle A added eaves shaped as his initial. The A shapes that are still present are a remembrance of him. Uncle A took care of his property until 1944 when he passed away. His gravestone at the Fries Cemetery isn't far from the farm he built over 100 years ago. Highway 95 that runs past the farm at a distance was constructed in the 1930s.
I can remember when that highway was built. I was just a little girl. I was about 10 years old, I guess. So it was around 1936, 37 in there. It was quite a thing. My grandmother has a house sitting up on the hill looking down toward our house here. And when we could sit out there and watch them working on the road. And I don't know what they were very happy about it, but I don't know if they were or weren't. That wasn't part of anything I listened to. I didn't hear them talk about it. Uncle A had a heart attack, and then he died. I remember that it was around Christmas time, and we all felt bad about it, but it was the loss of one of our loved ones.
Muriel McCown, his widow, lived in the house until shortly before her own death in 1973. Because she wanted someone to take good care of the place, she sold it to Frank and Mary Roan, Phyllis's parents, for the small sum, even in that year's standards, of $9,500. Mary's maiden name was McCown, and she and her husband Frank cherished the time that they spent with their family at the house and on the property. Nothing could compare to the happiness they experienced during Christmas time when everyone would gather at the house to exchange gifts and to share their love. Their family loved them just as much. They were also loved by many outside the family. For those close to Frank and Mary, it was the most difficult day imaginable when they passed away suddenly in a head-on car crash in January 1978 near Moscow, Idaho. Just as Muriel McCown, wife of Uncle A, wanted the house to go to her niece Mary and her family, Frank and Mary willed the house to Phyllis and her husband Ralph because they wanted it to be looked after with a great deal of care. From 1978 to present day, the house and property has remained a sanctuary for all of Ralph and Phyllis's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Ralph passed away in 2011, but while he was alive, he made sure that the house and property were kept up to immaculate standards, just as Uncle A and Frank and Mary would have appreciated. From the outside, he cleaned the house and mowed the lawn. To locals and passers-by in general, he became known over the years for how much he seemed to enjoy cleaning, growing trees, and working in the yard. Simply put, he made the property shine in the eyes of anyone who would see it. He also planted more trees so that his own contributions would be remembered, much as Uncle A had done with the A-shaped eaves, something for family to have and to take with them into the future. Mowing the lawn might seem routine to some, but it was said by the minister at Ralph's funeral that if it were possible to mow the lawn in heaven, then that was probably what Ralph was doing this very moment.
Carol and I moved here when it became clear that Ralph and Phyllis, my parents, were going to need some help because they were getting on in years. Since Dad passed away a couple of years ago, we feel it's up to us to carry on the tradition of keeping the place up to a standard that my parents, my grandparents, Frank and Mary, and my great uncle A. McCown would be proud of. The addition of extra lanes on this side of the highway that runs past the place is something that can be avoided. To cut corners for selfish financial purposes and to get the job done as quickly as possible while not exploring all possibilities, Idaho Department of Transportation decided they would destroy part of what has stood as our family's center of the universe for over 100 years. The effect on us and the future generations of our family will be significant. To add lanes puts first my mom and also the rest of us, me, Carol, our children, and grandchildren in danger. It also lessens the beauty and wonderful environment and view of this classic homestead. When we first heard Idaho Department of Transportation's intentions, we were devastated with the prospect. What we wouldn't understand is why they would not consider building the road extension on the other side. The land is undeveloped and prime for road additions. We thought maybe the reason would be that the power poles run along that side of the road would need to be moved if they built on that side. We were told the poles would need to be moved no matter which side of the highway they added the extra lanes to. We spent some time with Department of Transportation's right-of-way manager, the surveyor, and other people that have come to see where this road project's going to go. Almost everyone that's come has agreed with us that it's not the proper thing to do, that it's just as easy to put the road on the other side. The things that stand in the way are surveys that have been done in the past, an environmental study that's already been accomplished without really knowing what it would do to the property. It's just come to pass that it's not an important thing to do to go down through our property. That could just as well be on the other side in the undeveloped area. Well, years back, around 25, 30 years, Dad planted a number of trees out along the road, and his idea was to have them there for future generations to enjoy. The trees have grown up. They block some of the sound. They block the traffic that's coming along. They provide some safe buffer between the roadway and the yard. And not the least of which, they're something that was put into place by Dad years ago with the idea they'd be there for not only this generation, for future generations. He's gone now, so he certainly won't know whether or not they're gone, but we will. And we don't feel very good about it.
We've got a row of trees out there that we have to get rid of. And we have one big tree out here in front that Ralph brought out when we moved out here in '78. He went in and took the John Deere and picked it up on the front of it, hauled it away out here and put it down, and it grew fine. And they want to take that out.
We added the additional lawn that goes out to the highway a few years back to make a bigger play area for our children. Granted, playing that close to the highway adds some danger anyway, but it's really turned into a great place for them, back away from the highway enough that they can still enjoy the open field, play ball, play soccer, throw the ball for the dogs. Our chickens are often out in that area eating grass. If we lose 40 to 60 feet of the space between the house and the highway, it just means that not only can we not really use that space anymore for recreational purposes, but we've got traffic just that much closer to the house, to the yard, to the animals that we've got here on the place, and the risk of someone being either hurt by getting on or near the road, or a car coming off of the road and running down and hitting the people or the buildings that are closer then to the road is increased substantially, and we want to avoid that at all costs.
Hi, my name is Linda Murray, and we are here in Potlatch, Idaho. I would like to introduce to you my friend and my neighbor, the lovely Phyllis Omby. Now, Phyllis, I understand that you were an elementary teacher here in Potlatch, Idaho for several years?
25 years.
25 years. Can you tell me a little bit about why we're here?
Well, the highway department has come and said that they want to take, I don't know, 40 or more feet off of our lawn.
Can you tell me about some of the changes that might take place to the property if they do add the extra lane here on Highway 95?
Well, yeah, they'll bring it in onto our lawn, and we have a access road out straight across from the far barn, and we can't use that anymore.
And that's rather important too, because you have a very slim driveway and it makes it easier when you have guests to have a drive-through, correct?
It sure does.
Right. I've used that thoroughfare and it works. It's beautifully designed, easy to use. So tell me, Phyllis, just a little bit about how these changes are going to affect you, and how do you feel about it? Does this sadden you?
Yes, I'm just sick about it. To have them just come in here and just rip up what we've worked so hard to get looking nice. And I feel real bad about it.
So do you have any special memories with your Uncle Adrian?
Aunt Merle always had hyacinths planted on either side of the sidewalk, and I just loved to see them. And they'd usually invite me in, and Uncle A would go out to the cellar and bring me in an apple. And it was kind of interesting about Aunt Merle. She was so persnickety about her house. If you sat around, she had doilies every place, on the chairs, and she just had doilies all over. And when anybody left, if you look back in, you could see she straightened up all her doilies. And another thing that's kind of interesting, doesn't have anything to do with this, but my Auntie Laura used to come down and see see Aunt Merle quite often. And when she came, she told me, I didn't know this, but she told me, she said when she came to see her, she knocked on the door and then she says, Aunt Merle, it's Laura, let me in. Because otherwise she might not let you. And I can understand that.
Oh.
So it's just been, and another thing kind of interesting, Ralph, my husband, he said the first day he was up here, he went to work for his uncle over by Plou's. And he said he drove by this place and he said he looked at it and he thought, I just wish I could live there. And lo and behold, he got to. Maybe that's the reason he married me.
What a blessing. That's wonderful. I must add, too, that the entire community of Potlatch has made comments time and time again about how beautiful this property is and how well maintained and lovely it is, and especially your lawn. Yeah. Your lawn is gorgeous. And we were planning to have this interview here today on your lawn near the stakes where the road department has placed their potential construction area. And it would be a shame in a year from now if we were not able to do so.
Yes, it's just sickening. It just makes me feel so bad. And I don't know, we're trying to do every thing we can to convince them that it isn't the thing to do, but who knows?
So Phyllis, can you tell me the impact it's going to have on you when you see the construction workers and the machinery starting to dig into your lawn and change the beauty of this place?
Yes, it's going to be terrible. And know that there's not a thing I can do about it. When they begin to start on it, it's just beyond my realm. I just don't see how they can do that because it's it's taking away part of our living, and I know that Ralph would be hating it too, because he thought so much of the place, and
It's going to be an emotional trauma for you, isn't it?
very much so. I just have nightmares about it. So I just hope that something will happen, that they will change their mind and leave us as we are.
It's my understanding, too, that they have other options. Are you aware of those other options that you can share with me?
Well, there's nothing on the other side but farmland. And they could do it over there. They could do it over there with not bother anybody. I don't know why they won't do that.
I know you've all heard about it, and I know you've all seen the stakes in the yard. Our position on that Turn Bay addition is this. We're for the safety of it. We think it's something that's needed. It's a congested intersection. The safety aspect of it will be good. What we don't think is a good idea is that they expand it into our yard. It's something that we're proud of. It's something that we've worked hard on. It's an encroachment on our residents. It's an encroachment on our lifestyle. Specifically, the reason that they had continued with our side was there'd been an environmental study done. They didn't want to spend the money to do another environmental study on the other side of the road. Without exception, we've got support from people in the community that will support our position, as long as it doesn't stop the safety aspects of it, actually putting in the turn bay, because I'd say as many people as don't want the encroachment on our place would also like the turn bay put in so that it's a safer corner. And we agree with that. We'd like it to be safer too. We just don't think it's safer if it's closer to our house. It can be out in the field and be safer. And so that's our position. The state historical people that work for the state government have been here, and they may be declaring a portion of what we've got a historical site, be Mom's house, and for sure the big barn. The other thing is there may be some rights that we have as a homestead. Uncle A homesteaded this land, then it stayed in the family when it came to Grandma and Granddad, stayed in the family when it came to Mom. So it's been in the family since the homestead days. If that's the case, they said that the state may have no option but to go around since it's still part of homestead. As you can see, we've got there was 24 people that were going to be here tonight. That's, I think, 22 showed up. So we thank you for coming, and we want to show you what we've done so far tonight. And then we're going to ask everybody's support, tell everyone you know what we're trying to do, and we will we'll also add this gathering as well as comments from individuals here about the project to the video if it's appropriate. A town would be proud of. The addition of extra lanes on this side of the highway that runs past the place is something that can be avoided. To cut corners for selfish financial purposes and to get the job done as quickly as possible while not exploring all possibilities, Idaho Department of Transportation decided they would destroy part of what has stood as our family's center of the universe for over 100 years.
Long before this, when I first heard about a new highway expansion through here, and it was going to go on the west side of the highway where there were all kinds of private property that's going to have to be disposed of, my wife and I couldn't figure out why they didn't put on the east side of the road where there was nothing but a field and a power line and leave the private property alone. I just couldn't figure that out.
The things that would be affected by it, like for instance, all the trees that have been planted out here recently will be gone, and the new grass that's out there right now will be cut into as well.
I'm all for road widening, 4-lane highways, turn lanes for safety, for commuters, etc. It's a nice luxury to have, mostly in rural America like we live right now. What I don't understand is why someone from the state level would come in and make a decision like they made to put this turn lane on someone's property that has trees they planted and taken care of, that has a sprinkler system installed. I mean, where's the supervision at the state level for someone to come in and make a decision to place that there versus the other side of the highway that is a hay ground, right? I mean, I don't get what the logical thinking there is. It tells me there is no logic in the thinking that took place. So my wish would be that someone would educate these people that are coming out and doing this work with the landowners, because this is America, right? We're supposed to work together to be a team to build America. Don't just come in and arbitrarily put something in someone's property without talking to them first. We're all willing to work with the state. We're all willing to work with our government as long as they work with us. Don't come in and just do what you want to do and make it happen. It's just not the right way. It's not the American way. So thank you.
I was raised 3 miles from the McCowan Ranch over on Crane Creek, and I really feel like that it's very, very important that this road be moved completely on the other side of the highway. I would say that that is one of the most important things to preserve the integrity of this historical site, historical home. One of the finest examples of a man who was raising horses, a man who was trading here in an area that a huge amount of workhorses were used, both for farming and for in the woods. And the business that he developed here during those years, I think was very successful, or they wouldn't have these buildings here. And I think that moving that road is very, very important. Moving it off of this property, keeping it on the other side in the farmland is critical to just preserving this place. And that's how I feel about it.
This place has been a part of my life, part of my legacy. I mean, I believe 6th generation in Latah County, and I brought my children here for a better quality of life, and I wanted to bring them here so they could be by this place, which is a big part of my growing up as a child. And we came here, we played, we grew up here. I've had lots of great times here, lots of wonderful times here, and some not so great times, but it's always been a good thing. Just the idea of any further encroachment on it just is kind of mind-boggling. It doesn't really make a lot of sense at this point in time. So I'd like to see, it needs to make sense. I'm not a very political guy, but I do believe that it's important that we pay attention to what we're doing. We think about the future. We think about the future of our families, of our children, of our heritage. And this place is definitely a heritage spot. So, if asked my druthers on it, I would probably say move across the road. There's nothing going on over there. That's my thoughts. So that's the best I've got to say.
I can't imagine why, with all the open space on the side, that they're asking this family to give up so much property. I heard about it, but when I seen the stakes, I just shook my head. I said, I can't believe this is true. So anyway, I'm glad I had the opportunity because I hope that people in the state will take a look at this because it's something that needs to be taken care of. I put myself in their shoes and I know how I feel. And I think some of you in the state should also do the same thing. If your house was sitting out here like this in a peaceful, rural atmosphere, would you like to be encroached on with all that noise and traffic like that? That's something I want you to think about. Put yourself in the same shoes as these people are here. Thank you for listening.
My name is Irene Bain, and I am Phyllis's sister. My mom and pop were Frank and Mary Roan, and this place here is a special place to us. It's really discouraging to me to think that they might widen the road into Phyllis's yard. I don't understand. It doesn't really make much sense. And I'm hoping that that isn't what happens. This is a place that's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, and we'd like to keep it that way. So
I live up the road, and this is my family relative's place here. I'm an aspiring engineer, and personally, when I think about the idea of putting in a turn lane, if I were to do that, I don't know why I wouldn't take into consideration somebody else's property and how it's going to affect them. And that would be one of my main concerns. My first concern being safety, and then, of course, somebody else's property. And honestly, I don't know why they have even come up with this idea to take off 45 feet from this yard when there is nothing but, land that can be pushed aside on the other side. As an engineer, I'm a puzzle solver. I like to solve puzzles, and they obviously haven't even put an effort into solving this puzzle. So that there's a lot of room for improvement, obviously. So
I know Lloyd and I are both in support of putting the turning lane on the other side and keeping this place historically together.
I agree with you 100%.
Yep.
And if there's any arguments on this, I don't know how it could possibly be.
Right. So.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Lloyd Roan. I'm Phyllis's brother. And, well, your cousin, uncle, whatever I am. But it doesn't make any difference. But I live up the road a little ways, and I've known this place. I've been around this place ever since I was a little kid. Uncle A. McCown, he was right here, and every time he'd come by, he would come out and he'd see us boys out there, kids out there, He'd have apples for us. He'd always give us an apple.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget him.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share with you about the many, many memories that I have had here on this Ownby property. I used to spend my childhood here when Frank and Mary owned this place. I used to wake up here. My friend and I used to sleep in the barns. We used to make memories here. And that's what it's all about, is making memories with family. And I would hope that the State Department could possibly take that to heart and be human. I am all for safety, but not the destruction of quality of life. Please. Thank you.